Alright guys, got another video. Been asked several times, and when I did my first install I did it on a live feed, so we're going to do it again. What are we going to do? We are going to install an 8mm quad core staggered into the 35V3. So we've already got our coil built. We've already got our legs cut, and I'm going to discuss that. What I do with the single coil is I will cut one leg at 4mm, this one, and the other leg at 5mm. It makes it really easy to install. We're going to put the 5mm leg in first, and then we simply swing the 4mm over and in. So let's open up some posts here. Okay, so this is our 5mm leg, as we already discussed. We're going to slide that in. Actually, let's knock it down a little bit. Just because it's early. So we're going to put our 5mm leg in the post hole, and we're going to snug it up. We're not going super tight. We're just going to snug it up. Then we're going to take our 4mm leg, get that one lined up. You want to make sure it's fully engaged, and that's why you leave your other leg longer, so you can kind of pull it over into the post hole, and you have that material there so it doesn't kind of distort your coil. A lot of people have asked me what I use for a mandrel. I use a 5/16 drill bit, standard, or if you have the profile mesh, any mesh atomizer comes with this weird little mesh bending tool. This guy is 7.5 or so millimeters. So what I do is I'll position my coil to the best I can with this big honking bit. As you can see, we're still cattywampus. I'll take this guy and I'll turn it. I'll massage it around, and then the final step is you want this coil as low as possible in the airflow. That way it doesn't foul the chimney. From here, we just try and get her nice and centered. Okay, nice and low. What is that? About 1 or 2 millimeters below the coil. From here, we're going to tone these watts way down. Go down to 35 watts. That's strange. Should have asked me if this was a new coil. Ah, the resistance was so close to the last one. Okay. Now we start over again. You're going to notice almost instantly that your first hot spot is always going to end up where those legs kind of crisscross. All I do for that is I grab the bottom of the leg, give it a little tug, just to give it some breathing room.
poop a stinky head.
There's a lot of material here, so installing one of these can be time consuming, but you just gotta be patient, that's all. Starting to color up real nice. Okay, no hot spots, so we're gonna move up. 35, let's jump up to 65. We're not taking as big a jumps with this because this is a DNA build. This is 27 gauge nichrome and 90, so it's fairly soft. We don't want any erratic hot spots to pop up and risk welding a coil. So what I will do too is when we get up to our next step here, there's a way to help hot spots come out, and I know the intent of this is to get them out, but to get them out you have to make them show up. So we're up to 100 watts. If you just kind of tap the coil, see how that instantly brought hot spots out? That's what we're looking for. We're looking for this coil to be as stable as possible, so when we go to wick it, we don't inadvertently have hot spots come back up because we disturbed it. As we sit right now, we're at 100 watts pulsing. One little hot spot came up over here. Our little pinch and pull method works a treat. Alright, now we're going to jump up again. I know where I personally run this coil, and in my live feed I dry fired it at 325 watts or so. I'm not necessarily going to do it with this one because, again, it's nichrome N90. My build is N80, which is a little bit more stable of a material. And I don't mean that N90 is not stable, it's just softer. Okay, so we're up to 165, no hot spots came out. We're going to move up to 215. Very short presses here. The higher you go in the wattage, the shorter presses you want. You don't want that. See how it just starts to turn like a glow in the center? Right there? That's all I'm looking for. No more than that. And all I'm doing is checking my common spots, which are here at the legs, where it makes contact with the first wrap. That is 90% of the time where a hot spot is going to be on this massive coil. So 215, we got nothing. 275. Again, super short pulses. Just validating no hot spots come up. Now, some people at this point would say, well, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Why are we dry firing a coil at 275 watts? The reason being is because this coil can support it. I run mine at 250. I've ran it up to almost 500 before my battery couldn't give me any more power. So I know what this coil is capable of for what the wattage it supports. And again, we're not glowing this white hot. We're not force annealing the material. We are just going through routine checks for hot spots. And at this level, it's not going to happen. So we've got our coil broke in. Now we're going to wick it up. The wicking part of this is the tricky part. And I say that because it's not very often that anyone runs an 8mm coil. The only other instance is going to be the profile, a mesh atomizer. And with that, it's usually not an RTA that's going to leak everywhere. So, what I do is I take a Muji pad and I basically take 60% of that pad. So this pad's normally this wide. I take 60% of this pad, and this is what I use to wick it. I'm going to peel off my outer layer. This might be a little thick. We're going to find out. Again, all we're looking for is a little resistance going through the coil, nothing that's displacing it. Do a little pull. Pick up the fibers in the middle. A roller end. Now we're going to see how it looks. The first time I ran cotton through one of these, it was nowhere near enough. So we corrected that real quick. See how that coil slightly moves? That's all we're looking for. Nothing crazy, just a little bit of movement. I've got it right where I separated the cotton in the middle. That's why it moves a little easier in the center. And all we're going to do to wick this is I wick it just like I do my 30V3. You have your wicking channel right here. I'm going to take my cotton down. I'm going to set my scissors right on the top of that channel. Just like this. Come on. Just like that. On top of the channel. Resting on the wicking port. And bring our cotton down. We're going to score it. My scissors are very sharp, but this is a lot of cotton to mow through. We're going to spin it. Top of the wicking port. Resting on there. Nothing crazy. Score it. Get it in a more comfortable position where you can see it. Cut it. Alright, so now I gotta fluff all this up and try and break it up. So what I do is I peg the other side with my finger while I'm kind of breaking these fibers up, because I don't want to pull it through. I don't want to make it too long on one side and short on the other, so not going too crazy, just kind of breaking them up a little bit. Okay. Pull off our little fluffies. Pull off our fluffies. Eyeball. Okay. Big old bunch of cotton. From here, I'll show you after I get it right where I want it. So I take all that cotton, and I stuff it down into the wicking port, and then I take my tool and I push it up so it makes like a pom-pom on top of the wicking port. Essentially, it's like a dam, but you have that window wide open. That's what you're looking for. This tank you'll be able to run an entire tank without any dry hits wicking like this. Like I said, I set at 250 watts on my single coil, and I've ran it a lot hotter than that. No dry hits, no issues. The only time you might have a little bit of leaking is at your very first fill up, and that's just because your cotton has to expand. Again, that was just minor, couple of drops, nothing